Hi, I'm Micah Halpern. Thank you for joining me today as I do some thinking out loud. Our first segment is called Background Briefing. The first thing I've been thinking about is Israel's superlative strikes on Hezbollah have been mesmerizing and historic. They're not spontaneous, off-the-cuff attacks by Israel. Each and every aspect of the strike took long, tedious, minute periods of planning. The only questions were when and then in what order and what frequency the strikes would be launched. Hezbollah's leader, Hassan Nasrallah, did not ascend from his bunkers often enough except to switch locations. The only way to target Nasrallah was to destroy his bunker. The amount of intelligence required and gathered was truly inspiring. Not just the location of the bunker, but where he would be inside the bunker at the time of the strike to ensure that the bunker buster bomb would accurately hit the target and eliminate Nasrallah, not simply wound him. That was impressive. The Israel Air Force needed to launch the missiles from a specific altitude at a specific radiant angle to ensure the maximum penetration of the weapon. Israel used about 80 tons of armaments in the attack. 80 tons. Each bunker buster bomb weighs about 1 ton or 2,000 pounds. They are designed to first penetrate the ground and continue burrowing before exploding. From the info released, it looks like Nasrallah's body was not mangled or maimed. He either died of the explosion, which causes the body organs to expand internally, or from poison produced as a result of the bunker being destroyed. Nasrallah and Iran miscalculated. These enemies of Israel incorrectly concluded that Israel would not launch such an attack while the Prime Minister Netanyahu, was in New York City at the United Nations Annual General Assembly. They were wrong. Actually, that was part of Israel's plan. They needed to know what room Nasrallah was in at the time of the strike. The only way to know that was to strike while Nasrallah and his closest aides were in the media viewing room in the bunker, watching, yes, you guessed it, Netanyahu's speech at the UN. Knowing that there was a viewing room, knowing where it was located in the bunker, knowing that they would be watching was equivalent to being a fly on the wall of Nasrallah's bunker. Secret bunker, no less. Israel had that much intel on the leader of Hezbollah and his innermost secure sanctum. That was impressive. Iran and Hezbollah misunderstood Israel's skills and talents, as well as their technology and their drive. And most importantly, they miscalculated the Jewish state's commitment to defend itself. They thought that Hamas's successful massacre on October 7th was the new Israel. They thought that Israel was ill-prepared and incapable. They thought that the great might of Israel was gone and that Israel was now vulnerable and beatable. The fact that Israel was ill-prepared on October 7th, although true, was an anomaly. Israel is proving that with these remarkable operations, which are successfully destroying Hezbollah's leadership, Iran has understood their miscalculation. That's why, according to the press coverage, the Grand Ayatollah has been relocated to secure secret bunkers on a regular basis. I'm certain that they are hoping that their bunker is more secure and more secret than Nasrallah's was. In response to Nasrallah's assassination, Iran has acted in defense of their minion, Hezbollah, and they had launched several hundred rockets and drones and missiles towards Israel. Iran knew the vast majority of their projectiles would be unsuccessful. They knew that Israel's missile defense system would intercept them, as happened on Saturday night in April, earlier in the year, when Iran launched over 300 projectiles that time towards Israel. In this case, Iran needed to save face and defend their fellow Shiites and their mentees. For Iran, this was a gesture and a symbol. I have no doubt that despite Iran's warnings, Israel will not only respond, but their response has been remarkably successful. They totally knocked out Iran's air defense systems. And just like with Hezbollah, these targets and plans have been in place for a very long time. they hit and struck Iran and literally disabled their system of defense, allowing Israel now to strike at will whenever. This was very impressive. The U.S., of course, is calling for a ceasefire. Israel will not heed that call from the United States, or for that matter, from any ally. Israel will pursue their short-term objectives, and they will only stop after they have met their goals. Israel's enemies, bent on destroying her, have not yet learned the biggest lesson. Do not underestimate Israel. Coming up next, Points of View. First up is a column by Ynet that was written by General in Reserve, Amir Avivi. The column is entitled Seeing the Big Overall Picture and subtitled in Ynet form, Opinion, Absolute victory is closer than ever and it's worth the heavy price, according to the chairman of the IDSF, who also outlines the flourishing of Israel on the day after. Ynet normally encapsulates the entire column in their subtitles. Avivi explains that Israel's total victory is very close in the battle against Hamas in Gaza, Lebanon, against Hezbollah, and against Iran. He shows how and why it is so important. This is how General Avivi begins. The saying goes, it's always darkest before the dawn, and right now, it feels like we are in that dark moment, awaiting the dawn. Certainly, the past year, and the past month in specific, have put us through deep darkness, with tears for the many fallen. In addition, despite such successes as eliminating Yahya Sinwar and Hassan Nasrallah, we are still at war in Gaza and Lebanon, and the constant fire from Lebanon still plagues our northern communities. Avivi continues, but at the same time, now that the lengthy, bloody fighting that's upon us has greatly thinned the enemy's ranks, it makes sense to climb above the perspective of our immediate troubles and comprehensively view the overall strategic picture. For the first time in many decades, Israel is in a position to defeat the Shiite axis that's been assembling against it for generations. For the first time during this war, conditions have clearly been achieved for attaining our objectives in the south, for dissolving Hamas as a military and governmental entity, and for returning all the hostages, while ensuring that Gaza will never harbor a terrorist army again. Avivi now explains that this is a gargantuan and important victory, and that it must be taken very seriously and must not be squandered. The general writes that Israel has literally incapacitated Iran. This is what he says. In a single attack, Israel successfully wiped out Iran's air defenses and obtained the necessary freedom of action for continuing to implement its plans until Iran's military capabilities have been fully dismantled. Avivi explains, by severely damaging Iran's air defense capability, Israel provided itself with operational freedom of action that can enable it to mount further operations in order to prevent Iran from obtaining nuclear weapons and other capabilities, and can ensure that Iran will pose no future threat to Israel. Avivi sees Iran as crumbling, and that Israel must keep the pressure on Iran to prevent them from resuscitating themselves. He writes, the term absolute victory is now becoming realistic. It can be clearly defined as the crumbling of the Shiite axis. The road ahead is still long. The sacrifice and determination are required in order to resist the temptation of agreements that would enable our enemies to rebuild their threat. We, too, currently stand at a moment that could develop into such a long period of quiet. It depends on our ability to persist and win. The scope of the victory and the scope of the decisiveness will determine the direct proportion, the quality and the time span of the golden age that Israel will experience on the day after. On the day after, peace agreements will be signed, the economy will flourish, mass immigration will commence, and so will a baby boom of the type that characterizes post-war years. Avivi concludes by quoting the famous song by Naomi Shemer, Machar, which means tomorrow. She is saying all will be good tomorrow. Tomorrow is filled with hope, filled with greatness, and filled with love and happiness. He writes, All this is no fable and no dream, as Naomi Shemer, the songwriter, predicted. All this was within the reach, and true as the noontime light, we need only persist to believe in unity and simply to win. Avivi writes a spectacular column filled with hope for the future. Next up is a column from the Allgemeiner, dated November 8th, 2024, and it's entitled, "There is no international law demanding a Palestinian right of return." It's written by Tamar Sternthal. This is how she begins. The so-called right of return has been a fundamental Palestinian demand ever since the initial effort to eliminate the nation-state of Israel failed 76 years ago. In recent days, however, the AP, the Associated Press, upgraded the unfulfilled aspiration into international law. In their article on October 31st, article banning UNRWA will lead to a vacuum and more suffering for Palestinians, the agency's chief says. AP's Bara Anwar and Sarah Eldib invented. International law gives Palestinian refugees and their descendants the right to return to their homes. There are numerous examples of this falsehood that Sternthal shows and repeatedly shows throughout the column. Here's what she writes. In fact, there is nothing in international law which gives Palestinian refugees and their descendants the right to return to their homes. Sternthal proves the language is actually a suggestion, not a right at all. Listen to her and the non-binding resolution that she quotes. The non-binding resolution 194, passed by the United Nations General Assembly, does not give Palestinians the right to return to their homes. Moreover, the language should be permitted, that's the language, should be permitted, denotes a suggestion, not a guarantee. The section of the resolution dealing with refugees states, resolves that the refugees wishing to return to their homes and live at peace with their neighbors should be permitted to do so at the earliest practicable date. Sternthal concludes by showing what really happened and why. She writes, finally, the main part of the resolution called for the establishment of a conciliation commission, which convened in Lausanne, Switzerland in 1949. While the Arab states and Israel attended, the former declined to negotiate directly with the Jewish state and rejected any agreements. In the past, the AP has accurately reported that the Palestinians demand a right of return, or that they believe they have a right of return. In short, while that's entirely accurate to state that the Palestinians demand a right of return, or the Palestinians believe they have the right of return, it is completely false to say that international law gives Palestinians a right of return to homes some of them had in 1948. Thank you, Tamar Sternthal. She writes a very compelling argument. Coming up, commentary through cartoons where pictures tell the story. I want to resume our series on poster wars and show you different posters from different sides fighting for your support and your opinions. So no cartoons, no memes, no headlines today. To remind you, these posters are gathered and sent to me by one of my heroes, Glenn Richter, one of the founders and the major backbone behind student struggle for Soviet Jewry. Glenn, together with a powerful and committed few, put together a movement that freed Soviet Jewry, and in no exaggeration, was instrumental in bringing down the fall of the Soviet Union. On to the posters. Of late, the war for the lamp poles seems to be dominated by pro-Jewish, pro-free the hostages, anti-Hamas posters. There are fewer and fewer anti-Jewish posters, but there are still many people ripping down the pro-Jewish signs. And there has been an uptick in violence and verbal spats between people who are ripping them down and others shouting to leave them up. Actually, one of the posters is about that. I've chosen 3 anti-Jewish posters and 15 pro-Jewish anti-Hamas posters to show you. The numbers are very telling, very telling. This first poster is aimed at Jews who need support because of the complex issues the Jewish community is facing. It's not very complex, but these people do not understand how Jews can support Israel. Did you get that? They can't understand how Jews can support Israel and why Israel is killing thousands of innocent Palestinians. This poster stunned me when I first saw it several months ago. This next poster is in yellow, shouting, "Stop U.S.-Israeli genocide of Palestinians now." Next up is a play on the poster wars. It reads, "Ripping is hate. Israel is a terrorist state." In other words, ripping down these posters, anti-Israel posters, is hateful. In reality, it all started when Jew haters ripped down kidnapped victims' posters. This poster is by the Hatikva Sticker Collective. It reads, "Stop teaching your children to hate. Teach love instead. The O in love is a Star of David, a Magan David." Next up is a poster of the Bibas boys, Kfir, age 1, and Ariel, age 5. Each child asks, "Why am I a hostage?" Powerful. This poster is on the pole where the poster is on top of posters, layers thick. There are two people with masks, KKK person and the Hamas person. The poster reads, "Different mask, same goals." In this poster, the Statue of Liberty is saying, 5 Americans kidnapped by Hamas. The caption reads, "Let our people go." This poster is sort of a history piece. It's somewhat long, but it's worth reading. In 135 CE, Rome began to refer to Judea, the land of the Jewish people, as Syria Palestina, in order to destroy their cultural identity. I wanted to be clear, they wanted to remove Judea from the Jews. Next up is a poster demanding that it is time to fight for Jewish civil rights. This is a direct message to the universities. This poster is, of course, a classic calling out the hypocrisy. It reads, "Believe all women, believe Israeli women." Next up, we see the word sex with 3 X's. And then, "Now that we have your attention, Israel has no intention of hurting innocent Palestinians. You're thinking of Hamas, Hezbollah, and the Houthis." That's actually funny. Next up is a poster that reads, "Israel doesn't occupy Gaza, Hamas does." This poster is actually produced by Free Palestinians from Hamas. This next poster is a round sticker pasted on top of so many layers of other stickers. It uses the Remember and Zachor theme, saying, "Never forget October 7th, 2023. A poster of a US flag blending into an Israeli flag, saying, "I stand with Israel." That's actually powerful, very simple, but powerful. This poster is very powerful also. It reads, "Jews can't look away from anti-Semitism. Neither should you." This poster is also about Zachor, Never Forget theme, and the Zachor idea, October 7th, 2023, and an Arabic name, Abd al-Rahman al-Ansara, one of the 1,200 murdered by Hamas on October 7th. Here is a very large poster. It reads, "It is time to blame the terrorists, Hamas and Hezbollah. They are certainly not militants." And finally, this last poster is also powerful. It reads, "Bring back our girls." It has etchings of the Israelis still held in captivity. In a moment, more of my own perspective and a few predictions. Russian President Vladimir Putin signed a treaty on the country's strategic partnership with North Korea, which includes a mutual defense provision enacting it into law. The accord announced by Putin and North Korean leader Kim Jong-un calls on each side to come to one another's aid in the case of an armed attack. The decree making the partnership law appeared on an official website outlining legislative procedures. The treaty was ratified by the Russian parliament. IDF Chief of Staff Lieutenant General Herzi Halevi expressed his confidence in the military's endurance as Israel's war in Gaza has reached the 400th day. "The IDF does not tire," he said. "We grow stronger with each day of fighting. We gain experience, skills, professionalism, and fortitude." He said at a situation assessment with commanders in the northern Gaza's city of Jabalia. He added that the IDF is providing unprecedented security for Israel's northern communities and expressed commitment to safely securing Israel's hostages and missing personnel, affirming, quote, "We are ready to fight with resolve and to make sacrifices to bring them back, unquote. Israel warned UNIFIL, that's the United Nations Interim Forces in Lebanon, the peacekeepers there, not to patrol south of the Litani River. The Hezbollah-affiliated Al-Akhbar newspaper reported all this. Sources told the publication that the warnings were connected to a possible expansion of Israeli offensive to new areas. The United States has charged an Iranian man in connection with the alleged plot ordered by the Iran's Elite Revolutionary Guard Corps to assassinate President-elect Donald Trump, the Justice Department reported. In a statement, the department said that Farhad Shakiri had informed law enforcement in interrogation that he was tasked on October 7, 2024, with providing a plan to kill Trump. The department said Shakiri allegedly told law enforcement that he had no plans to formulate a plan to kill Trump within the IRGC's timeline. Foreign Ministry in Tehran announced that Americans' accusation that Iran was behind an assassination attempt against Donald Trump was a repulsive plot by, you got it, Israel and the Iranian opposition outside the country to complicate matters between America and Iran. The General Chief of Staff of Saudi Arabia's armed forces, Fayed al-Rawalai, will visit Tehran to meet with his Iranian counterpart and discuss defense ties. This was reported by the Tasnim, a semi-official news service. The United States and Britain launched raids on the Yemeni capital Sana'a, the Amran government, and other areas around there. Al Masirah TV, the main television news outlet controlled by the Houthi, and residents were reporting that 9 raids targeted Sana'a and the area. Iran-aligned Houthi militants have launched attacks on international shipping near Yemen since November of last year, where they say it's in solidarity with the Palestinians in Israel's war against Hamas. The attacks have drawn U.S. and British retaliatory strikes and disrupted global trade as ship owners reroute vessels away from the Red Sea and the Suez Canal to sail the longer route around the southern tip of Africa. We've been thinking out loud about a lot today. Now that you know what I've been thinking, tell me what you're thinking. Email me at micah@jbstv.org. Tweet me at Micah Halpern. Tell me what you think. Before we end, let me leave you with one piquante piece of information. Did you know that, despite the horrors of this past year, there is so much creativity and spirit in Israel? I try to show you some of it because it's so inspiring for all of us. This video is only 2 minutes and 37 seconds. A combat soldier is singing with a Haredi musician. It was spontaneous. It's on the street, on an open mall in Jerusalem. They're singing Psalm 121. It's the Song of Ascent. It's one of hope, a tremendous song of hope. It's only simple 8 lines. This is what it reads. I turn my eyes to the mountains. From where will my help come? My help comes from the Lord, maker of heaven and earth. He will not let your foot give way. Your guardian will not slumber. See, the guardian of Israel neither slumbers nor sleeps. The Lord is your guardian. The Lord is your protection at your right hand. By day the sun will not strike you, nor the moon by night. The Lord will guard you from all harm. He will guard your life. The Lord will guard you going and coming, now and forever.
Shamaim,
Amen. Amen, as they say. Amen. Thank you for thinking out loud with me, Micah Halpern. Let's think out loud again next week on JBS.